What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. In this episode, we're going to go through the schedule, the 2021 Ravens schedule, and we're going to do win-loss predictions on all 17 regular season games. And I'm excited about this one, Jimbo, because the season is coming. It's right around the corner, and Ravens are finally starting to get some of the key pieces back to practice, starting to look like the team we envisioned before camp started. And I got a feeling it's going to be a long first week for the Las Vegas Raiders, but I don't want to spoil too much yet.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to go through every game and pick them, and I'm going to try and take my homer out of it. Okay. Because obviously we're huge fans. We're from this area. So it's something that it's in our blood, but I'm also going to try and be realistic. I don't want to be a complete homer. I want to pick with my mind and try and keep my heart out of it, but it's going to be difficult, Jimbo.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, and I'm excited to go through this exercise. One thing, just to make sure you guys are aware of it, next week, of course, is the week of, it's the week in preparation before the Monday night game. So if you're new to the show, usually what we'll do is, now that we're doing shows on Monday, Wednesday night, we're going to do a preview on Monday with Tony Thornton this week. And then also we're going to we try and have somebody from the opposing team on the show as far as their media on the show every week to preview the game. We're going to have Willie Wi-Fi is a Raiders YouTube channel. You guys can go check him out. But he'll be on the show in the coming week as well. And other news, we're going to have Luke Jones from the Baltimore Sun on the show in the following week. So just kind of wanted to get that out of the way as well. It's going to be really exciting. So make sure you guys sub to the channel, turn your notifications on. So that way we know when all the stuff drops.
Absolutely. Yep.
But Glenn, I'm excited to get into this. Now, we're not going to take a deep dive into week one. A deep dive? Did you hear that? That was
deep dive.
We're not going to take a deep dive into week one, but we will reveal our wins and losses.
Yeah. And I'm just realizing, Jimbo, and I know this is, we're recording, but is that Monday night not the Raiders game, Jimbo?
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about for Luke.
Oh, right. You are right. So we won't do next Monday. We'll do next Wednesday. Excuse me.
There we go.
With Luke. I'm gonna follow with him
because he might be a little bit busy during that time. I mean, I think we might also be a little bit.
Yeah,
busy,
just a little.
But yes, we got exciting shows on the horizon. But man, this season, it seems like every season it takes forever to get to that week one, and usually it's because in the summertime there's not a whole lot of sports on TV, right? I mean, it's just baseball usually, and that's it, unless the Olympics are, on TV, which, some stuff's more interesting than others, but it's definitely not the excitement level that it is the rest of the year with basketball, football, hockey, and baseball as well. So, all right, but let's get into this. No more beating around the bush.
Let's
do it. Week one, Monday, September 13th in Vegas, opening the new Allegiant Stadium. Who you got, Jim?
Yeah, they're opening it, and we're going to shut it down. Ladies and gentlemen, check that in the win column. The Ravens start 1-0, and I think that there will be some urgency in this game because we are not the healthiest Ravens right now, and I still believe that we have a very good chance against the Chiefs, but we are not the healthiest version of ourselves. So losing to the Raiders, and then just like Cliff said, losing to the Raiders and then going into the Chiefs and potentially losing and starting the season 0-2 is not what the Ravens want to do. So I think the Ravens have plenty of urgency. This is already an important game. Every week is important. No time for ramp up. That is over. The Baltimore Ravens go in there, slap Chucky and his team around, show them who's boss, and send them back to the Vegas Strip, ready to empty their pockets with some bets. Just depressed.
I like it. And I agree with you. The Ravens are favored 4.5 right now. Of course, things could change, but I agree. I think that the Ravens win this game. It's really hard to play the Ravens in the first week and then coming off bye weeks. It's something that the Ravens have traditionally been very good at. John Harbaugh gets his team ready to play. And also, it's just so hard to prepare for the Ravens because they're such a unique offense, and then nobody else runs the same offense as the Ravens. So it's just really hard to imitate and emulate the style in which they play with. And it as much as you can try to, it's just totally different when you're lined up against them and that whistle blows.
And then think about defensively. I feel like we are suffocating. I think it's crazy because everyone, rightfully so, everyone's talking about the offense, which could be potentially very high powered. We're looking forward to that. But man, that defense I think is going to be stifling.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the offense steals most of the headlines because, I mean, look, they've scored more points than anyone in the league the last 2 years. So, but yeah, you forget about the fact this is a perennial top 5 defense.
And haven't they been number 1 in scoring as defense in the past 2 years as well?
Taken over. Yeah. Number 1 in scoring. So there's no doubt that this is a complete team. This is a team that's good in all facets. Still, again, special teams. You could arguably say it's the best special teams unit as well in all of football. So definitely got a lot of things to look forward to, unless you're a Raiders fan, because I think it's
not
going
too
to be
much
a
to look forward to.
Yeah, long afternoon. And I wonder, like, what type of fan base do they have right now? I mean, I'm sure there's excitement, no doubt. NFL team coming to Vegas, but how much support are they getting from the locals right now, or is that support going to be coming from the outside flying in? Or is it just like fans that, people that happen to be in Vegas that want to go watch a game? I think that,
it's going to be weird to see. You're right. Because honestly, you talk about locals, there's really not a ton of locals. Like it's not, it's not a big place, it's just a blip.
How many Ravens fans are going to be in that stadium?
Oh my goodness.
I think we'll be well represented.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't, because now it's a destination spot for opposing teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's 10-point win by the Ravens is my prediction.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm not going to give my point spread until our breakdown, but 10 points. Nice. Okay, let's move on to week 2. Glenn, we will be in the building at the bank, depositing them checks. That's right. We get no kickback for this, but M&T Bank Stadium is our preferred financial institution.
Sure is. Both personal and professional.
That is right. So let's talk about it. Week 2, coming off the butt whooping of the Raiders. Glenn, start this one off.
Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, look, if you look at Lamar Jackson's career, he's 30-7 as a starter. You take away the games against Pat Mahomes, he's 30-4 as a starter. So this is a big, big game for the Ravens. And
he's already played Pat 3 times? I thought only twice.
Nah, as far as I know, he's played him 3 times. He's lost all 3.
Ah, crap.
So yeah,
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, correct. Fact check me if I'm wrong, because I don't have it right in front of me. I'm pretty sure that I'm right on that. So yeah, I mean, this is a big kind of statement game. I think if the Kansas City Chiefs come into Baltimore and it looks like it did last time they came to Baltimore, where they kind of took them to task a little bit and seemed to have the perfect play call against the Ravens play call every single time. It just seemed like they were one step ahead of the Ravens in pretty much every facet. So this is a big, big game. And while I know the offseason is focused on that week 1 opponent, you never want to overlook any opponent. And the Raiders are certainly formidable in that they have some big name players. They got some stars on their team and some guys that'll worry you. I'm sure they're looking ahead and peeking ahead one more week and checking out that Kansas City Chiefs game and have something special for Andy Reid and the boys. And look, it's the first regular season game in a long, long time at M&T Bank. I know the place is going to be rocking. It's going to be loud. It's a night game, so that certainly adds to the effect of and what the fans are going to be bringing. Right now, the Chiefs are favored by 3.5, and that's not often that the Ravens find themselves as home underdogs. So it's certainly it's a unique situation. But the Ravens are going to win this game, Jimbo. They're going to win this game. They're going to lean on that power run game, and they're going to keep Pat Mahomes on the sideline. And look, the defense, while there's injuries on the offensive side of the ball, that you can't. I mean, look, the wide receiver core is banged up. Obviously, they lost J.K. Dobbins for the year. The offensive line is just now starting to get together and build some continuity. But the defensive side of the ball is quite opposite. It's been relatively healthy all camp, and it's been impressive all camp. I mean, the big name guys on defense have showed out all camp and looked even better than they have in the past. So I predict that they'll still be healthy, at least in week 2. I'm talking about a couple of key guys. Of course, Tavon Young comes to mind as a guy who's usually not there towards the end of the season. Fingers crossed. Hopefully he is this year. But I think that the fact that I'm hopeful that they'll all be healthy as they are right now, and they'll be able to slow down that high-powered offense, and that defense is just gonna be in for a long day because the Ravens are gonna come at you with Gus the Bus. They're gonna pound the ball, and Lamar Jackson's gonna do enough to keep them honest and work down the field, and hopefully we'll have a healthy receiver core by that point. Knock on wood. Sammy Watkins and Marquise Brown are back, and I think those are two key guys. We know Bateman's not going to be back, Boykin's not going to be back, but we got a pretty decent group there, probably the best group Lamar's ever had, even without those two guys.
Yeah.
So I've got confidence that the Ravens are going to pull off a tough win, and they're going to do so with a late field goal by Justin Tucker, and they're going to go 2-0, and then the fun really starts, Jimbo, because if you come out 2-0 in these first two games, I mean, those aren't easy. Opening, a stadium and then at home against a team that you haven't beaten recently. So I'm excited. But yeah, I got them winning both these first two.
Wow. All right. So I'll second your sentiment there and say we're going to go 2-0 as well. I think that we pull this one off against the Chiefs.
By the way, I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong. The Baltimore Ravens are favored in this game by 3.5. I'm sorry.
Which basically means it's a wash because you usually get 3 points being home, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to correct myself. I was wrong when I said.
And I was about to say then based on the fact that we're home, it would actually be a 6-point spread if not, because that would be a pretty big spread, 6.5 points.
Yeah, at home,
in that game,
home opener. Yeah.
So no, that's fine. So glad to hear that we're favored, and that makes a lot of sense as well. But yeah, I think we go in and we win this one. Look, I think that the Chiefs look good, and they have a great team, but I do believe that psychologically it's really hard to not rest on your laurels. Even if you lost the Super Bowl last year, knowing that, you can kind of take things for granted and just think that you'll get back the next year and this, that, and the other. But there's definitely, to me, in this
circumstance,
the advantage is to the Ravens being the up and comer, right? Instead of the incumbent that is the Chiefs. So I'm saying 2-0, Baltimore Ravens get the win. Lamar Jackson gets another monkey off his back, and checks that one off the list of things that haters hate on him for. So let's move on to the next one, the Broncos. All right, so and this is interesting because we've had some recent transactions. We tried to pick up Royce Freeman. They picked up McCrary, our running back. So this is going to be an interesting game. They'll have the new check down king, and that is check down Teddy. It was Joe Flacco, but he is their starting quarterback now. I'm rolling with the Baltimore Ravens to go 3-0 because I don't think they got the firepower to keep up, and I don't think they got the defense to stop us. It's really that simple for me. I think the math is in our favor. Any way you want to slice it.
Hold on now. They play the Lions in week 3.
What am I doing here?
They play the Broncos in week 4, but you skipped over the Lions.
Oh, geez, I did. Sorry about that.
I can see why you would, because
that's going to be a beatdown. They're going to walk in here like lions and walk out like kittens. Jeez.
So Jared Goff is coming into a big year for him, right? I mean, he gets kind of cast away by the Rams. They say pretty much that you're the reason why you're kind of the guy that's been holding us back. I mean,
they have no kickers on their roster on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's nobody who does more head-scratching moves, I think, than McVay, but it's hard to argue with the success he's had. There's no doubt he's had success. But yeah, that's an interesting there. Are you talking about the Lions? Right?
Yeah, I'm talking about Campbell.
I thought you were talking about the Rams. But
no.
But yeah, the Lions, they got some nice pieces, but I still think that they're still a bit away from competing. And
just say it, Glenn. Just say it. They're hot garbage.
Yeah, they do some interesting things there. And I know, Jared Goff is trying to bounce back and kind of revitalize his career and after he was cast away. But I just think Dan Campbell does some. I mean, first of all, his press conferences are amazing. I mean, he's so entertaining, and I'd love to watch all of them. But yeah, I think they're still a long ways away. They still struggle on both sides of the ball. Can they find a run game that they can sustain? I mean, that was the big problem with Stafford. He never had a 1,000-yard rusher in all those years he was here. Never a 1,000-yard rusher. So I still think they're a long ways away, and I think as long as there's no coming off the high of beating the Chiefs and there's no lull, which I would be surprised because John does again a fantastic job getting his players ready to go, and we haven't seen that stoop down to the level of the opponent in a long time here in Baltimore. Usually if this, especially since the Lamar Jackson era has begun, if you're supposed to beat a team, the Ravens hammer that team usually. I can't remember a time where the Ravens lost to a poor opponent as of lately. It's usually the Chiefs. It's usually, the Browns, the Steelers. It's the Bills, the top of the top-notch teams that usually knock the Ravens off, not these bottom feeders. So they roll the Lions. It's bad. Yeah. Even in Detroit at Ford Field, I don't think is enough to save them. But you were saying about the Broncos.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really, but just to add to that really quickly, I agree with you. I think we go in there, we leave 3-0, get the job done. And, I mean, there's only two places that players go just to get a paycheck, and that's Detroit and that's Jacksonville, right? Like, it's where players go to retire and
the
get
Bengals
a paycheck.
too, I think.
Yeah, and the Bengals, there's a little bit of that as well. But yeah, so all right, on the Broncos, like I said, I think it'll be a tougher game. And if I'm not mistaken, that one's at home, correct?
No, that's at Mile High.
Jeez Whiz, I'm all turning around. I need to look at a different schedule. Golly day, I'm looking at Google's schedule.
October 3rd.
So and my baby will probably be here by then. Crazy to think about. A couple days old at that point, most likely.
Yeah, so you'll have another fan in the room watching.
That's right. And we're going to get a win. We're going to
get a win. Look, they got a good defense. There's no denying. I mean, I think this is the second best secondary in all of football behind the Ravens, and their cornerback room is full. I mean, it's absolutely full.
Ranked at number 1, actually.
Yeah, a lot of people have it ranked number 1.
Yeah.
Not me. I think our secondary, I mean, you look top to bottom, it's absolutely a powerhouse. But there's no denying their defense is really, really good. And then they got Von Miller, who's a stud and star. And I know he's getting a little long in the tooth, but I still think he can get it done.
And apparently he's been looking good this offseason. He's been looking real good, rested. I think that last year while he had surgery, maybe 1 year of not taking hits.
Yeah, it does a good thing for his body. I mean,
yeah.
And then offensively, they got some pieces. I mean, the receiving core is certainly formidable. The big question is the quarterback room. I think a lot of people were shocked to see Teddy win that job. I think Drew Lock.
Really?
Well, I think Drew Lock had some moments in the preseason. He had one game, if I remember. Again, it's off the top of my head, but he had one game where he had like two touchdown passes, had a nice completion percentage. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is the more safe pick in the sense that he's more
consistent, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he protects the ball, but he's also a guy that doesn't push the ball down the field a ton, doesn't give you a ton of upside. He's more the safe pick, whereas Drew Lock, I think, might give you more upside, but he also gives you more risk in that he might turn the ball over, throw the ball to the other team. But I still think the Ravens moved to 4-0 in this game, and they're on track to make some noise. But moving on to the next game, October 11th, at home against the Indianapolis Colts, an Indianapolis Colts team that thinks they thought they were a quarterback away, went and got their quarterback. He's been activated. He's ready to go. Carson Wentz is ready to try and get his name back in the upper echelon, the upper tier of quarterbacks, which it was there a few years ago. And then he's certainly fallen off. But look, that defense is looking good. They got a strong run game, and that the offensive line might be the best in football. And then you have Jonathan Taylor, the stud, coming into his second year. And a crowded running back room. I mean, they got a bunch of running backs that can really play with Naheem Hines and Marlon Mack. And I think they have a fourth guy, if I remember correctly, that they brought in. I'm not sure if he made the team. But what's your thoughts on the Colts game? Is this a game where they could catch the Ravens sleeping?
Man, this is going to be a really interesting one. Because like you said, I think at this point we'll be 4-0. A lot of tough games in those first 4. But, you got Carson Wentz with the foot and then COVID. I think I'm going to call him COVID Carson from now on. But no, I think they take a step back this year. I know that sounds crazy, but I think Carson Wentz has just watching his pressers. The hardest thing for any of us to do is self-analyze. And I think if you want to be a leader, I actually just read a report about this in the Harvard Business Review. In order to be a good leader, you need to learn how to lead yourself. And that starts with looking in the mirror. Carson Wentz doesn't know how to look at himself in the mirror. Just being honest with himself. And I think it's really apparent. And I think that has come out in some of the stories we've heard about his teammates and his coach and not taking coaching and things like that. And I think that is an impediment to his team as a quarterback. I think he has all the talent in the world, but I think it's what's going on right here. And so I think they take a step back. I agree. They have a solid team, like not solid. They have an incredible surrounding cast. But I don't see it happening for Carson Wentz. I think he's in his own way and he's his own worst enemy. So I'm going with the Ravens in a dogfight. In a
Mhm.
dogfight, but I think we win this one by 3 or 5, something like that, and go to 5-0. Yeah, that's right. 5-0. Yeah, 5-0.
Is
That's
that
5,
5
right?
or 6? I think that's 6.
No, wait, that was week
We
5.
got Raiders. Okay.
Don't get me feeling crazy
All
now.
right. All right. All right. All right. We got 1,
But
2, 3, 4, 5.
let's start with the Chargers now.
Well, hold on now. I didn't give my take on the
Oh,
Colts
geez,
game.
a whiz. I
mean,
am
look,
losing my mind.
I think they win that game. I agree. I think it's a tough game, but I just think at home, under the bright lights of a Monday night, it's a tough hill to climb. I do think it's a competitive game. I think they stay in it, but I do think the Ravens win ultimately. But let's move on to that Chiefs game.
Yeah.
Chiefs,
Chargers.
game. Jeez Louise. It's early, ladies and gentlemen. But
not that early.
I do think it's a tough matchup for the Chargers in that they have to travel the entire length of the nation here, coming all the way to Baltimore from LA.
And it's 1 p.m. Eastern.
It's a 1 p.m. game, which means they're playing at what, 10 o'clock?
10 a.m. Yep.
That's an early start. But I think with all that said, I think this is the first loss for the Ravens. I think they catch them sleeping. Look, this is a tough game. If they come into this game healthy, they've rebuilt their offensive line. They got a stud young quarterback who, the thing about Herbert that always made me really like him is the biggest thing I think quarterbacks do when they come in the league that makes them fail is they're scared to make mistakes. They're scared to push the ball down the field. They're scared that they're going to throw a bad interception. They're scared. This kid ain't scared. This guy, he whips the ball down the field. He'll take chances with the ball, and almost always those chances work in his favor. I think he's an absolute stud, a future star in this league. I love it. I just love his gamer mentality. I love his competitiveness. And if that offensive line can keep him upright, I mean, their receiving core is ridiculous. Keenan Allen is an absolute monster. I know they lost Hunter Henry to the Patriots, but
they still got Mike Williams.
They still got and that defense. I mean, you're talking Joey Bosa, Derwin James, who
coming back.
I mean, he is an absolute star. And if they could just keep him on the field, he could show the nation just what kind of player he really is. And I know they lost Ingram to the Steelers, but look, let's be honest. The guy was banged up a lot, and they were forced to play without him a lot anyway. So this isn't like unfamiliar territory. If Joey Bosa is still healthy, still getting after it like he always does when he is on the field, I think they can catch the Ravens sleeping in one of those games. Look, they're not going to win all of them, and I think that this game, coming off of a late Monday night game, I think it's kind of the perfect storm for a loss for the Ravens.
Yeah, I can understand completely what you're saying, but I literally cannot bring myself to us losing this game. I can't. Okay. This is my homer coming out now, but let me back it up with some rationale here.
Okay.
Justin Herbert, I agree with you 100%. I was actually not on the bandwagon because I was getting nervous about guys coming out of Oregon because of the system, right? Kids proved me totally wrong, and I will openly admit that. In fact, I think the Redskins are going to regret taking, as good as Chase Young is going to be. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like that kid, I think he's going to be a star. In fact, you can see how much better he is than Baker Mayfield with how quickly he took over that team with Tyrod Taylor under center previous to him in comparison to Baker Mayfield, right? Like there's a clear difference. But so I'm going to say we're going to win this game. And I think the win will come down to the reason for the win will be turnover battles. I think he's still a young guy. You talked about us being a complex and unique offense. I think every bit of that logic applies to our defense. We're very complex, very unique. I mean, how many times do you see teams run a cover 0?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that there's a lot of uniqueness there. I think he's still, a young guy to enough where we can get him a few times. Peters might get him for one. Cause like you said, he's going to push the ball down the field and that's fine. It's going to give us plenty of opportunity. I think that we win this one at home and go 6-0.
6-0.
Going into the Bengals game the following week again at home, Glenn. And look, I'm just going to say this real quick. We're going into the bye undefeated. Into the bye. 7-0.
I mean,
look, I'm not going to wager on it, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a tough schedule. This year is tough. But if you're going to make that type of if you're going to get out to have a good season, you need to take advantage of these games. We have 3 in a row home games, which is what they're going into the bye with. So you got to win those games if you want to make a playoff push, because this is probably I mean, if you look around the league, is there a tougher division than the AFC North? I mean, you're projecting 3 playoff teams coming out of this, and I just heard somebody on ESPN making the claim that they think the Bengals might edge out the Steelers for that 3rd spot. Now, I think that's a pretty bold claim, and we're talking about the Bengals now. I still think they're a bit of a ways away from making that type of a leap, but they're going to be a tougher team than a lot of people are projecting. Joey Burrow is the real deal. He's back at quarterback. I think he's going to be a guy that Ravens are going to have to deal with for a long, long time. I think he's a real true stud. We just haven't seen it yet because they're still building around him. But let's talk about what they do have around him. They got a monster receiving core. I mean, their receiving core it's right up there. I know it doesn't get a lot of pub, but when you look at that receiving core, it's some studs. And now Jamar Chase has been a disappointment right now, at least from what I've seen. I've seen
Look,
clips
a little bit like Rashad Perriman.
Yeah, he's dropping some easy ones, but we'll see what happens when the lights are on, the games are live. But even without him, you talk about a group that's got some absolute studs out there. So
yeah.
I'm not really concerned about their skill talent is there. I mean, talking about Mixon in the backfield, they got it. Can they do it up front is the big question. Can they protect Burrow? Can they open up lanes for Joe Mixon? That's the question that still remains to be answered. And what's the defense look like? I still think they're a little bit away. But yeah, so I think the Ravens win this one and go into the bye with a relatively easy win. I think this is another, it's a 10 to 14 point win. I think it's a pretty easy one, especially because I'm predicting they're coming off a loss against the Chargers. So they'll be ultra motivated to go into that bye week with a win. So I got them winning. Now, coming off a bye week in week 8, another tough game. They got at home against a Minnesota Vikings team that is no joke. They got Dalvin Cook, who's maybe the 2nd or 3rd best running back in football. And then Justin Jefferson explodes onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And now, they got a pretty nice 1-2 punch with Thielen and Jefferson. I mean, I think you could put that 1-2 punch up against almost anyone in the league, and you're looking good. I know they lost their tight end, but I think they just traded for Herndon from the Jets, if I remember correctly. So another pretty good athlete that they're adding to that group to replace Irv Smith. This one's a tough one for me, but because the Ravens are coming off a bye, I just think it's too much to overcome for the Vikings, and the Ravens win a tough game though. But I know you're not the biggest Kirk Cousins fan.
Yeah, no.
I'm interested to see your take.
Yeah, him and Baker are just the same person, right? Like there's the same human, and so. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm a huge fan of Kirk Cousins' ability to collect them checks.
Mm-hmm.
Man is getting paid. So shout out to Kirk Cousins for getting paid while being average. Nothing like it. Yeah, so I still think I agree with you. Like for all the reasons that you mentioned, Dalvin Cook is great. They got a great duo out there. And I still, while he's old school, I like their coach, is willing to lose an eye to keep coaching. Hey, he's at least committed at the very least. And so, I'm such a freaking homer, but, we're not losing. We're not losing, Glenn. We're just not, dude. Look, think about this. We're going to be at home. We've talked about this before, but from the week of, October 11th, until the week of November 7th. These guys are going to be at home, rested, well-fed, well-practiced, in tune, coming off the bye. No, sir. I mean, it's just not happening. We're not losing to Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. So, yeah, we're going to be 8-0 at that point. Holy crap. That's right. Everyone's going to be talking about the Ravens. Gus is going to be ruining people's face masks. And we're going to be on to week 10 to the Miami Dolphins. I can already feel it now. The commenters are freaking blowing me up, dude.
Well, look, I mean, I only got one more loss than you have. So this isn't like I'm picking us to get beaten down. And I'm sure the Chiefs fans will be out, heavy in comments. But
that's fine.
Then the next week, a short week at
Thursday
the Miami
night.
Dolphins on Thursday night, 8:20 game, prime time, even though it's Thursday. And look, this Dolphins team, I think, is going to be a lot tougher than most people are predicting. I know Tua is kind of in a big year for him, a year that he's got to prove whether he's the guy they thought he was when they drafted him, or is he a disappointment at that spot. But look, no excuses for him. They've done everything to surround him with talent. I think that the young guy, Waddle, it looks like, at least for early on, that he's going to be a stud. The guy is fast. I mean, he just looks like he can be a big problem around the league. So when you add him to the group that's already there, there's no excuses for Tua. This guy's got a team around him that you should be successful with. And then, of course, the Brian Flores coaching on the mainly coming from a defensive mindset. I think they're going to have a good defense. They got a stud corner in Howard, who just, I think, got an extension or just a pay raise. I'm not sure. I think it's just a pay raise.
Yeah, more guaranteed money with a pay raise. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they got a really, really good team. But look, it's Miami. It's Florida, right? I mean,
that's right. This is the bank 2.0. That's what I'm saying. If that's where you're going.
South. This is Baltimore South right now.
That's right.
And I know that there's going to be a ton of Ravens fans in Hard Rock Stadium representing the purple. I think that it's going to be a tough game for the Dolphins. Look, I have ultimate and utmost confidence in our coaching staff. And on these Thursday night games, you got to have a coaching staff that knows how to prepare these guys, get them rested and healthy enough to play a Sunday to Thursday game, which is not a lot of time. And I think the Ravens do it better than most, if not all, of getting their guys rested, ready to play. And I think the Ravens meet the Miami Dolphins as well.
Yep. I'm with you. I can't see us losing this game. I think that, like you said, for the rest of Lamar Jackson's career, if he's playing down in Miami, just draw up an L for the opposing team because he's at home. He's comfortable. We got other guys that are, obviously Hollywood, Tyler Huntley. Now we don't want to see Tyler Huntley play a single snap unless it's at the end, kneeling it down.
Fourth quarter.
Right. Exactly. I got him with a W here and 9-0, moving on to the Bears. And I think at this point, Glenn, the Bears will be starting Justin Fields.
They better.
Yeah, I think they'll be starting Justin Fields instead of the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Red Rocket is a much different thing.
Yeah, that's a problem. All right, so Andy Dalton will not be starting. Justin Fields will be starting. And oddly enough, Glenn, while I don't think they're a very good team, and I think that I don't think we're going undefeated.
Okay.
I think we're going into Soldier Field. I think it's going to be loud. It's going to be cold. And you got a quarterback that can do some things, that can make some spontaneous plays.
Mm-hmm.
We're winning. You like that? Yeah,
That's
we're
good.
not losing. We're not losing to the Bears. It's not happening. It's not happening. We're not losing to the Bears. Nope.
Okay. Well, I'll say that I know they have 10 days to prepare for this game, but I agree with you. I think that Justin Fields is definitely going to be under center at that point. And look, when you have a guy that can move the way he can, you can do some different things at the quarterback spot and cause some different issues. So I think this is a game where the Ravens get caught slipping a little bit. I think this
with the pants down, huh?
Yeah. I mean, look, Chicago's got a top 5 defense, in my opinion. They got some studs there. And I think that with the added dimension that Justin Fields brings with his mobility and just his instincts. I mean, I think he's just we were high on him coming out. We couldn't understand why he was forced down the board so much. I think we had him right behind Trevor Lawrence and right up there with all of them. But
yeah, he'll be better than Zach Wilson.
Now, I like what I've seen out of Zach Wilson too. So I'm not like down on him, but I think Justin Fields is just a special talent. I think he's mobile. He's smart. He's athletic. He's got the instincts that you need. He keeps his eyes down the field. He's not just a guy who looks to run and tucks it down and is looking for defenders. Now he likes to keep his eyes down the field and make big plays for his receivers. And I think he just catches the Ravens sleeping. Road game, back-to-back road games. I think it's just a tough one. And the Bears win a very close and tough battle.
All right, now this is where it gets serious.
This stretch is no joke.
Yeah, I know I've had us going 10-0 at this point. But let's talk about this next stretch here before we talk about the games. We got we're at home against the Browns, in Heinz Field against the Steelers, in First Energy Stadium against the Browns, at home against the Packers. So let's talk about that month, the end of and this is gonna be so much fun. It's gonna be around Thanksgiving. Oh man, it's gonna be a blast. I can't wait. So I think that this first game in week 12, let me just say this from the jump. We're going to split with the Browns this year. But I think this year we do it right. I think we get it at home. And then we lose to them in week 14. So I'm going to say Ravens win week 12 and stay undefeated to go 11-0. I think the Browns secondary is still questionable. I think, they have some good guys up front, but I think Lamar gets it done in the air, and I think Bateman will be back and starting to fire on all cylinders. And I think Baker will make his typical mistakes 1 or 2 times a game. And I think we take it. I don't think it'll be both of them, like I said, but I think we win this one.
Okay. All right. I like it. I agree with you. I think it's a night game. It's going to be a tough game against the Browns. They showed it last year. They are, if you just look at rosters, it's hard to argue that anyone has a better complete roster than the Cleveland Browns. And then you add the fact that they had the coach of the year and the executive of the year. And it makes you wonder, how can they lose, right? And I think the way they lose is you confuse and you get to Baker Mayfield. That's the best way, because that running attack is going to be formidable, and I don't think you can really shake Bradley Chubb or Nick Chubb rather, and Kareem Hunt. I don't think you can. I don't think they're going to come in off their game. If they're healthy, they're going to play well. So I think the best shot you have is getting in the head and confusing Baker Mayfield, and I think they'll do just that. But again, I think it's going to be a good game. I think they'll put up points. They just won't put up enough points. And by that point, I think they're going to have some, I think Clowney's probably not going to be out there, which means you can focus your attentions on Myles Garrett and not have to worry about both of them. I think it's advantageous for the Ravens, the fact that we play them later in the season. And when we're hoping there's a little bit of attrition there, because man, you look at just position group by position group, it's hard to find a weak one. You really can't find a weak position group on the Cleveland Browns. So I'm hopeful that we don't have to deal with both guys on the outside, because if that's the case, it's hard to – you can't double team everyone, right, Jimbo?
Right.
So,
but you also can't omit the quarterback position group. That's a weak one for them.
I agree, but they do have a pretty good backup in Case Keenum.
He's
right?
better. They would be better with Case Keenum. He's better.
So yeah, they got a pretty good squad. There's no doubt in it, but I do think the Ravens beat them in a tough matchup. And I got them at just let's see, I got them at 2 losses. So I'm not quite the homer you are.
No.
But I do have now. I'm interested because what's interesting about this group is, or this group of games, the Browns have us, then a bye week, then us again.
And that's when I think they beat us. They'll have that whole time to steam on the Ravens and just, on that loss.
They have a 3-week period, or really a 4-week period, if you count the week leading up to that first matchup, where their only focus is the Baltimore Ravens. And that's a tough ask.
The disadvantageous spot for us to be in.
But while the Browns are on bye week and chilling and relaxing, we got to go to Heinz Field and take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, our most hated and respected rival.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another matchup where I think it's advantageous that the Ravens play them late. I think that Big Ben is going to look like Big Ben early in the season. He's going to come out there zipping the ball around, making good decisions with the ball, getting it out quickly to help that offensive line. I think obviously the addition of Najee Harris doesn't hurt. I think he's an absolute stud and a guy who's going to be a star in this league. I'm a big Najee guy. Not now that he's a Steeler, but coming out, I thought he was an absolute. I mean, he's a 3-down back, can do it all, and loves to work, loves to grind, wants to continue to get better. So I'm glad that the Ravens are playing them late, because I'm hopeful that by this point, Big Ben is showing his age a little bit. I mean, look, this is a young man's game. There's a reason you don't see a ton of older guys playing this game, because it's tough on your body. And I think that his elbow will start to show the effects. So I think the Ravens get this win. I think it's at Pittsburgh, and it's weird. The Ravens in Pittsburgh have an interesting battle, because a lot of times they split opposite ways you'd normally assume.
Mm-hmm.
We, usually get them at their house, and they'll come here and they'll knock us off. So I think the Ravens win this game, and they do so because of the fact that there's just, Big Ben's starting to show his age. That offensive line is breaking down, and I think the pass rush is just too much, and coupled with the back end as well.
Yeah, I got happy when the Bengals took a wide receiver in the first round. Mm-hmm. I got really happy when the Steelers took Najee Harris in the first round, because to me they're building in the wrong way. That offensive line, you can have Najee Harris, that's fine. But the only guy that can really do damage in the run game, in my opinion, and that's because he plays quarterback without a solid offensive line, is Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's just the context is totally different. But to be a running back and to do so with a subpar line is just really brutal. As good as you may be, ask Saquon Barkley. Yeah. So I'm rolling with the Ravens in this one. I don't think we lose 2 in a row. I think the Steelers take a step back this year to around 500, maybe a little under 500. But I think we win this one and continue our string of wins. At this point, I think we're 12-0.
My goodness.
And like I said, though, for the next one, because we kind of previewed the Browns, I think we lose the next one.
Yeah.
To the Browns, we split with them. They get theirs at home. And because, like you said, they've had pretty much a month to think only about the Ravens and that first loss as well. So at this point, I have the Ravens taking their first loss in
December.
week 14. That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, I certainly hope you're right in the fact that they went 13-0 at that point, or 12-0 because they had the bye week. But yeah, I agree with you. I think at the Browns, when they've had a month to prepare for just that game or that team, I think that it's a tough, tall task, especially when you're coming off of what's going to be likely a physical battle with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going to be banged up, and you go into a game that these guys are fresh and prepared and ready to go. So I do think they lose that game. Although I wouldn't, it's not going to be an easy game for the Browns. You better bring your lunch pail. You better bring your hard hat and some work boots because it's going to be a long win. But I do think that the Browns ultimately win that game. And then they got to come home and take on the Green Bay Packers, led by right now the reigning NFL MVP and a surefire Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers. So this is no easy task either. And I think the Ravens, I think they lose this game as well. I think that Green Bay has a nice, pass rush duo with Preston and Zadarius Smith. I think they're going to, kind of wreak a little bit of havoc. Hopefully by this point, the Ravens are still healthy on the offensive line, but you never know this late in the season what it could look like up front. We certainly saw that last year, how a change on that offensive line can certainly affect the entire offense. And I'm hopeful that they're healthy at this point, but it's a lot to ask this late in the season for all those guys to still be there. But even if they are there, if there's one team, if there's one quarterback that can take advantage of a blitz heavy, risky defense that the Ravens like to play, that, like you said, like to play that cover zero, leave guys on islands. Aaron Rodgers is really good at finding finding the mismatch, getting the ball out quickly and getting it to the right guy. And then, they got some studs on the outside. So I think the Ravens lose this game to the Green Bay Packers at home in their toughest stretch of the season. I have them going 2-2, which I think if you ask the Ravens how they'd like to come out, I think they'd be happy coming out 2-2 in that stretch because it's a daunting stretch of their schedule. And 2-2 is not so bad coming out of it like that.
Yeah. I think that this game is going to be really interesting. It's a hard one for me to call because I agree with everything what you're saying as far as, him being able to be surgical against the blitz. I think that's going to be a big factor in this game. But I also wonder if Aaron Rodgers will be super, super motivated or like at this point, he's just going about his business this year, doing his thing. It's hard for me to imagine him being anything but motivated. Mm-hmm. But it'll be really interesting to see what Aaron Rodgers we get, knowing that this is really his swan song in Green Bay. So I'm saying the Ravens are squeaking this one out. I don't think I have them losing week 14. And so I don't think we will lose 2 in a row. We're at home. I think we win this game. We do enough to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field. I think that the Packers will be at a disadvantage, one being away from, being in the away team. But aside from that, they're not very familiar with us. We're not even in the same conference. If I'm not mistaken, this will be the first time Lamar Jackson goes head to head against Aaron Rodgers. Yep. And that means his defense. This will be whatever you can say whatever you want in practice, but until you see the kid up close, ask Bobby, who's the Seattle Seahawks?
Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, ask Bobby Wagner. You know what I mean? Ask those guys what it's like to ask Byard, right? Like it's really
even
hard.
Eric Weddle, who saw it up close.
Yeah. Exactly. So, trying to simulate that is just an impossible task. So I think that the Ravens, anytime they're playing a team for the first time, we have a serious advantage. And so I think we win this one. The Bengals in week 16, Glenn, just check it off. I think we're riding high. I think they are ready for the beach. It's the end of the season. I think Joe's bruised up because his offensive line is not holding him down. I think Zach Taylor's about to be out the building. I think he's the wrong guy anyway. Okay. And so we're winning that game. 2 teams going opposite directions. Just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the Bengals are on their way up, but you got to go so far up to get to the upper echelon of just this division, much less the AFC overall. And I think the Bengals are still a good ways away. And at this point, they realize they're the Bengals and they're out of playoff contention. And so I think the Ravens have a relatively easy win in this one, even though they're on the road at Paul Brown Stadium. I got them coming off of 2 losses at this point. So they definitely need to bounce back in a winnable game against the Bengals, and I think they do so. So easy win on the day after Christmas. So a good Christmas present to all Ravens fans, and certainly the team itself and their family. So the Ravens win that game, and then a tough matchup. I mean, they got the Rams coming into town, a Rams team that had the number 1 overall defense last year. Now, they lost some key pieces in that secondary, lost their nickel corner, lost their strong safety, who were both rated the top at their position, and they lost them to the Browns, which we don't love to see. But look, they still got a top 2 cornerback in the league, and Jalen Ramsey. They still got the number 1 defensive player of this generation in Aaron Donald in the inside, and they still got some other guys at the up front that are going to give us problems. I mean, there's just no doubt that defense is going to be tough. And then if Matt Stafford can be the Matt Stafford that everyone says he is, and says that he's just been held back in Detroit, has never had a run game, has never had a top 5 defense, has never had this, never had. Well, look, he's going to have a top 5 defense, right? He's going to have studs outside to throw the ball to, and Bobby Woods and Cooper Kupp, and that tight end group is pretty darn solid. And I know they just lost Cam Akers, and it's a tough blow, but they trade for Sony Michel. They try and replace him as best they can. And I think even Henderson's been banged up, so they're banged up behind him. But look, you got what everyone considers the number 1 offensive mind and play caller right now is McVay. I mean, I guess not everyone can, but he's certainly in
probably
the top
Andy
3.
Reid and McVay, and yeah,
he's in the top 3 with McVay, Shanahan, and himself, but or an Andy Reid. But I just don't see the Rams winning this game. We all know that Marcus Peters is going to be getting this team hyped, excited. He's still got a chip. He still holds a grudge to those guys. And look, the key guys are still there. Ramsey's still going to have us motivated because he's going to be running his mouth. He's still going to have the team ready to go. And last time we played them, it was beat down city. I mean, it was embarrassingly bad how bad the Ravens whooped them. And that was in LA. So I can imagine coming here, 4:25 game on Fox. It's a national TV game. I think it's going to be a long day for the Rams, and the Ravens win that game. Wow.
Yeah. The only thing that comes to my mind is the way that we torched. Totally different team, but we torched the Rams the last time we played them, and certainly that's going to be on the front of McVay's mind. It's going to be a really tough one. This is another tough one for me to call because I do think we end up with 2 losses and throughout the season. I don't think we get through with just one, just based on the math. But I think we take a L here. I think we take a L here, and. Man,
you're not going to like seeing Jalen excited on that field, are you?
And that's funny because that's exactly what I thought about. I thought, okay, we'll take a loss here. Then I thought, you mentioned it, I thought about Marcus Peters making one play to do enough to set us over the edge. He would be the guy to do it, right? So it's really hard. Every time I pick the Ravens to lose is really hard for me. But I'm gonna say they're gonna take L here, and then unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's just going to be bad. It's just going to be bad. We're going to go to the playoffs roaring. And so, I think we end up going out on a high note, spanking the Steelers at home, sending them home, not going to the playoffs, and potentially with our guy, geez whiz, Tomlinson with his first losing season. Potentially. Tomlin, Jesus whiz. Yeah, Mike Tomlin with his first losing season potentially in this upcoming season. So
wow, okay. So this game you don't think has big implications on their playoff appearance? If you're saying they have a losing season,
right? Yeah, no, okay. I don't think so. I think
not a lot of motivation from the Steelers then, other than maybe spoiler.
Yeah, and that line is just going to be. I just have a lot of question marks about that offensive line. You can't. Yeah. You can't keep investing in mid and low round picks and then expect all pros all the time. And so anyway, I have a lot of questions up front. Will Ben even still be healthy by then?
Yeah. Big question.
Yeah. And especially if they start losing, is he going to nurse an injury a little more? You know what I mean? So I have us winning that game.
Yeah. I think that that's a tough one for the Steelers. I'm so torn on whether I think they're going to compete or not. It's like I could see them competing, and then I could also see them completely falling apart. And you're right. I think a lot of it hangs on the offensive line and Big Ben. I think the defense is going to be it's always good, right? I mean, they got a good secondary. If Melvin Ingram can stay healthy and go opposite TJ Watt, it's problems. Casey Hayward's a monster. They're getting Bush back. Minka's still in the back end. I think they got a chance to have a really, really good defense. And once again, maybe even lead the league in sacks like they seemingly do every year. But it hangs on the arm of Big Ben and the guys in front of him to try and keep him upright and try and open holes. And I think it's just if this game has any implications on playoffs, I think it's a tough one for the Steelers to have to come into Baltimore and beat a highly motivated Ravens team. So I do think the Ravens win that game. I think they sweep the Steelers. But I'm still so unsure about whether the Steelers are a playoff team or if they're taking that final step back and they have to start rebuilding and starting with the quarterback position. Because right now they don't have the replacement or the incumbent on the roster because it's not Mason Rudolph. We know that. And I seriously don't think it's Dwayne Haskins, and who knows where his head's even at, if it's even in football or if it's in the strip club or wherever he is when he enjoys his time off, because I just don't see it with that kid. But so I think this could be a year where they start looking at who's going to replace Big Ben, and they might be picking in the top 10. But I could also see the opposite side. If the offensive line stays healthy, even if they're not the best, if they just stay healthy and can continue to get better throughout the season, then they could be a competitive team, and they could be a team that pushes the Ravens in this final game. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So my final record is 13-4 for the Baltimore Ravens. And I think that 13-4 is plenty good enough to win this division and certainly win a playoff spot as a wild card team at the very least. I think they're competing with the Cleveland Browns for this division. It's going to go right down to the very end. But I think the Ravens either way get in, and then you never know what happens once you get in. I don't care whether you're a road team in that first round or a home team with a bye week. I think the Ravens have shown that they can certainly go on the road and win games. Just ask John Harbaugh, who's done it more than any coach in history.
That's right.
So I'm confident that 13-4 is enough, and I know you must be confident.
15-2, first 15-win season, if I'm not mistaken, in Ravens history is what it'll be. I'm looking forward to this year. I think Lamar is going to sling the rock all over the place. I think he's going to, I don't know. I'm just really loving where his head is at as a player. Yeah. Where his mindset is, and the coach's strategy and the entire team they've built around him. So it's just hard for me to pick against us. Our roster is good. Our coaching staff is good. Our quarterback is incredible. Our special teams is good. Our defense is good. I mean, it's just really hard to beat the Baltimore Ravens. That's why I only have us taking 2 losses. So you're right. I definitely am a homer, but I'm feeling pretty confident about my picks.
Well, it's in the description, right? We're fans first. So,
that's right.
This should come as no surprise. But I don't think 13-4 is an unreasonable. I mean, maybe people disagree where the wins and losses come from. I think maybe some people are going to say they'll lose week 2 and win against the Bears in week 11. But that's fine. That's fine. We'll see what happens. I know one thing. I'll be in that building. Jimbo will be in that building as long as the baby isn't literally being born.
That's right.
But either way, 410 Sports Talk is going to be in that building screaming like crazy.
DK is going to be there.
DK, the producer, will be there in the building, and we can't wait. And I think that this is going to be a fun season, man. This is going to be a season that has a lot of big games for the Ravens, a lot of primetime matchups for the Ravens, and games against teams that we don't often play. Like you mentioned, seeing Green Bay come to, look, if you can get out to any game this year, you got a pretty good choice of some nice matchups. I mean, obviously the Chiefs game is the first one that jumps out. But if you could go see Aaron Rodgers, go do it, because this is the last time you're going to see him in Baltimore. No doubt about that, because it's another 4 years until we play him again.
It depends on who he's playing for next year.
Well, I guess that's a good point. That is a good point. He's definitely in his last year in Green Bay. So that's a good point. We might see him, hopefully not in a Browns uniform, if they decide to bail on Baker Mayfield. Imagine that guy on that team with that.
Okay, then I'll phone it in. Then I'll phone it in, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Then we got nowhere to point
to
a weakness, right? But let us know what you guys think. Were we too homer? Were we homers a little bit? Or was I a little tough on certain spots? I mean, do you think I'm crazy thinking they could lose to the Bears at Soldier Field? Give us your predictions, your win-loss predictions, and we'll certainly shout you out if we think you're onto something there. But let us know if we got it wrong, and we will talk soon.
See ya.